Time now for politics. Joining us from Parliament is Labour leader Chris Hipkins for his weekly chat. Chris, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, we've got Chris Bishop apparently setting out the infrastructure deficit this afternoon with the bill for modernising, maintaining infrastructure, anywhere between $100 billion and $200 billion. Geez, that's a lot of money. Do you think, if you get back into power, given where we've been with the storms and with, Mole Point and with Bromley and a whole bunch of other stuff, do you think infrastructure will be, up there with health in terms of priority spends?
It has to be up there in terms of priorities. I hope it doesn't end up being as much of a political football as it's been in the past, because ultimately we need to get on and do this work. We set up the Infrastructure Commission to try and take some of the politics out of infrastructure investment, because the chopping and changing of infrastructure priorities over the last 30 or 40 years is one of the reasons we're in the mess we're in now. So I'm going to be interested to see what the government come out with, and we'll be looking at that closely. But the more we can get behind stability and certainty around the infrastructure we've got to build, the better it's going to be for the country.
Can you just clarify what you mean by important infrastructure? Because when you were last in government, you were trying to build a bike bridge over the Waitemata for $750 million. Would you do that again?
Well, that project clearly didn't make it past the business case stage because it was going to be far too expensive for what we were going to get. But we've got things like water infrastructure that needs to be upgraded, schools and hospitals that need to be upgraded or replaced, roads that need to be fixed. Yes, our public transport infrastructure does also require significant investment. Active transport modes require investment. So there is a lot of work for
cycleways.
Country.
You're talking about cycleways there.
Yeah.
I mean,
cycleways and footpaths actually matter.
Do they? I mean, I asked this question. I got criticised for asking this question. I don't know why. It's a basic question, but isn't it more important to go to the toilet than ride a bike?
Well, kids used to ride their bikes and walk on the footpath to school, and increasing numbers of them don't anymore. That's adding more cars to the road, and it's also not as good for the kids. I want my kids to be able to bike freely, to walk freely in their neighbourhood that they live in, and I think that's a hope that a lot of New Zealanders have.
Totally, it's a hope. There's great things about hope, but also you want them to be able to swim and drink water that's not contaminated. First, surely. I mean, It's about priorities, right? So where's the priority? Let's go through number 1 through 5 for Chippy.
Well, that's one of the things that this plan is designed to achieve, and we'll be interested to see where the government have landed on it. We can't build everything all at once, but we need to get the balance right. So we do need to be investing in the stuff that's boring that people can't see. One of the reasons as a country we've underinvested in water infrastructure is pipes below the ground are not front of mind for most people until they stop working, and then suddenly everyone's like, why hasn't this pipe been maintained? But maintenance also draws a lot of complaints. So if you're sitting around a council table, you know that when you rip up pipes, people complain about that because it causes a lot of disruption. And so we've got to tackle some of the boring stuff that can actually be a bit annoying. Maintaining pipes is very annoying for people, but it has to happen.
Yeah, and happen ahead of, this is what I'm getting at. Where's your, can you list us your top 3, if you were to name the 3 priority areas, what would they be?
Well, let's see what the government have come out with, because I'm not.
Well, what are you coming out
with? We're trying to take some of the politics out of this, so I'm not going to come up with a separate set of priorities if what the government come up with is sensible and we can keep things moving forward. I think it's really important that we don't keep chopping and changing our priorities as a country. So the Infrastructure Commission have been trying to take the politics out of it. That is their brief. That's what we set them up to do, and the current government have continued with that work. If what they're doing is looking at it objectively and saying, hey, look, over the next 30 years, this is what the country needs to invest in, and here's the sort of sequence that we should be making that investment. If that's sensible and it stacks up, then I'd rather support that than go and say, oh, look, for campaigning purposes, we're going to come up with a whole different list.
All right. Hey, the FTA, has the government come back to you on your letter yet? Have you had a meeting with them? I think from what my reading of it, and talking to the ministers, the education stuff we can sort of get sorted. The migrant exploitation stuff we can get sorted. But the investment issue, whether this is some sort of ambition rather than a hard and fast, is quite a crucial one that's still unresolved. Is that fair?
The investment clause is certainly causing us a little bit of anxiety. In India, if you look at what the Indian government are saying about this, they're saying that this is a commitment by New Zealand to invest in India, and if we don't meet that commitment, they can take away the benefits that the trade agreement provides us. In New Zealand, we've got our minister saying, oh, this is just a vague aspiration and we don't actually have to do it. I think we really need to understand exactly which version of that is true, because if it is a commitment on the part of New Zealand, we are unlikely to ever be able to meet that. 33 billion New Zealand dollars going from New Zealand to investment in India at a time when we're saying to the rest of the world, please come and invest in New Zealand, seems somewhat of a contradictory message.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It needs to be sorted out. Have they come back to you yet on your letter?
No, I haven't had a response from them yet.
Okay. Not even we've received your letter.
I don't know about that, but
Okay.
I haven't.
That's too much admin.
From them.
Hey, just before we go, Eden Park. Well, actually, two quick things. Eden Park, got to be a great thing, unless you're Helen Clark, got to be a great thing. And also the investment visa, the money that we're getting, what's been committed and what's coming. These things, surely you've got to be on board with.
Yeah, fully support the changes around Eden Park. I think that's going to be good for Auckland. Attracting more major events to Auckland will be a good thing. Attracting more major events to New Zealand overall will be a good thing. Getting people coming into New Zealand and investing money in New Zealand is also a good thing. But again, it underscores the importance of getting these trade agreements right, because we're working so hard to attract investment into New Zealand. For the government to then turn around and say we're going to push all that money back out again and send it to another country seems, pretty concerning.
Yeah. I didn't ask you for your opinions on the poll, but I'm assuming they're, same as they were last time. I mean, not much is shifting. Government's still being re-elected.
Well, it's far too early to make that prediction yet, Ryan. I mean, if you go back 3 years ago, Labour was on track to be re-elected at this point in election year. That didn't turn out so well for us. The trend matters in polling, and the trend is bad for the government and positive for Labour. So I take some encouragement from that. But all MMP elections are close, and this is going to be a close election.
All right, Chris, appreciate your time this morning as always. Thank you. Chris Hipkins, the Labour leader with us from the Beehive Theatre in Parliament.